Are you ready to learn what red flags keep an eye out for when looking for love?
Then we got you covered. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the podcast where we unpack reality TV and call out the bullshit.
So that you show up confidently while dating and in relationships.
Welcome to Ditch the Script. I love it.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. One more week till Thanksgiving.
That's right. Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. I'm just getting really excited. I love this time of year and the energy that it brings. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
There's something else about this week that I wanted to bring up to you.
Ooh.
Which is that this weekend was our originally planned launch date for this podcast.
I know.
Did you know that?
That's funny. I mean, I knew that, but I forgot that was the case.
Yeah. It came up in my phone and it was like Brianna and Kiva podcast launch date. And I just had a moment where I was like, I'm so fucking proud of us. Yeah, it already happened. We already done that. And this is our 7th episode.
Yep.
Rolling. We have a system.
Lucky number 7, my favorite number. Hey.
Oh, it's your favorite number?
It is. It is my favorite number. But that's super cool. That's awesome that popped up on your phone. Yeah, I remember when we were planning and we kind of threw a date out there because you and I were like, let's pace ourselves. We don't want to jump in and get overwhelmed. Yeah, and then honestly, when you and I made the decision, no, we really should do Bachelorette, that's when we launched a whole month early, October 19th, even before that with our first couple episodes. Yeah. So everything happens for a reason, and I'm really stoked that we're on this ride together. And so far, we're fucking killing it, girl.
Yeah, we're killing it. It's really fun.
High five.
I'm having woohoo. Bob. Bob. No, I'm so proud of us. I also, we threw out the November 18th, 19th or whatever because I was terrified.
I didn't realize you were that scared.
Yeah, I was scared because I haven't done something like that. Well, I guess I have done something like this before, but it was small and me in my bedroom talking about my thoughts and feelings. It was different. It was different. This felt like serious business, but
so serious.
We're not but serious I think I was also scared that I didn't want to disappoint you or us. I wanted it to be good.
Aww,
and
I get that.
It's good.
Yeah, we're doing it. I think I can relate to that. I think my quote unquote fear, but it was more of a caution. And I've talked about this with Jordan in private just because it's I adore you. And our friendship means so much to me that when we were getting into this, my biggest concern was I want to make sure that Bri and I maintain our friendship outside of what we're building. Yeah. And also that with business challenges, you and I approach them as a team, and I know that can get uncomfortable. So far, we've been handling it great. But I for me, that was my fear. It wasn't necessarily the show itself. It was you and I maintaining us.
Yeah. Which is so funny. And I so appreciate hearing that, but it's funny to be on the other side of it, of launching and just from my perspective where we've talked more than we had in the last 10 years. And so I feel actually a lot closer to you because we're doing this together and we're building in all of this time to connect.
True.
Like you said, we're handling the more challenging parts of it really well, as a team, truly. But we're also having a lot of fun together, and so it's just making the whole process it feels like hanging out. So I love that.
True. I completely agree. And I think that what's really ironic about this whole thing is all of the skills that we're helping people to embrace and become aware of are things that you and I are practicing very much together behind the scenes because this is a working relationship. And so shut
Yeah.
up. We're doing so good. Like, yeah, I don't know. I've actually been meaning to have a chat with you on like, what are we going to do when the day comes when we like really disagree on a decision to be made? Like, I don't know, maybe we'll make Jordan make the final call, a third party, or like flip a coin, but
Yeah.
I feel like we'll
You
be
know what,
okay
though?
when that day
We're going to
arrives.
be fine. And there's something that you have utilized in other, like, they didn't end up being challenging conversations, but you use them to sort of like set it up. That really works for me, where you were like, all right, I'm about to have a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And that gets me strapped in instead of catching me off guard. Like, that gets me strapped in. I'm like, okay, take off your like your defensive hat, your personal hat. Like, listen to the information being shared here. So I feel like let's use that.
Yeah, no, that's like my go-to, even with my boyfriend. I'm like, okay, baby, like I need to have an uncomfortable conversation with you, or like I use parts language. This is actually a communication tip I give a lot to clients, is like
Hmm.
because I do with parts. It's like a part of me really wants to have this conversation with you right now, but a part of me is nervous about how you're going to feel when I express this,
Yeah, right, right.
Because it allows the other person hearing that to, as you said, prepare, but it also allows them to become a little bit more empathetic. Like, oh no, don't be nervous with
Yes.
me. I'm here. Where you're okay. Like
Yeah,
you're safe, you
right.
know? And even just me like getting that reassurance is it allows me to feel safe enough to be vulnerable and straight up. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. I was like, okay, Bri, we're about to have an uncomfortable conversation. Is now a
And
good
I was
time?
like, and I said, I can handle uncomfortable information. Like, let's go.
Yeah. And it ended up not
And
even being an uncomfortable.
no.
You were like, "Oh yeah, totally, let's do it." But, but for me, I wanted to preface it that way because all people are different. So,
Yeah.
we're
No,
practicing what
it
we
helped me
preach.
because we're sure trying to. That helped me. That has been something that had stuck with me since you had brought it up and said it, because it gave me the reassurance that like there probably will be more difficult moments while we like continue this like working partnership together, all
Yeah.
alongside of prioritizing our friendship. That I feel confident knowing that that skill is there to utilize and to
Yeah.
like bring it into my own life and my other relationships outside of this is like so great for me to have.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you and I love you so much.
Yeah, back at you. Love you.
Thanks. So
You'd think that
guys,
this is where the episode ends, but it's just not. It's
yeah.
where we start.
Now that you've had, played the third wheel on listening to Bri and I confess our love for each other, let's jump into the batch breakdown of this
The
week.
batch breakdown.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay. So I overall, my thoughts on this episode was that I really liked it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was like one-on-ones with people I
People
liked.
we
I don't
like.
know. What did you think? Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. It was definitely better than last week's snoozer of an episode.
Hmm.
But I think there was a good balance this week of red and green flags instead of it
Yeah.
being like heavy-handed in one direction. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are and what you observed
Hmm.
and all the things. This will be a good episode. Oh,
Yeah.
what
I feel
episode is
that.
bad?
None. I haven't heard one yet.
Me neither.
Ours, and we're prefacing ours. The Bachelor and the Bachelor franchise has had plenty of bad episodes. Let's just put
Yeah.
that there.
No, we're talking specifically about Ditch the Script
Us.
podcast. Us.
Yeah.
This show that you're currently listening to.
Right. So, okay. So the first one-on-one date that we had was with Joe, which made a lot of sense. Like they're both from
Mhm.
Minnesota. It would have been weird for her to take that very Minnesotan date with anyone else.
Yeah.
And just a little bit of a walkthrough. So they like threw the first pitch at a baseball
I had a
game,
Twins game.
at a Twins game. Thank you for helping me out with that. And then they did a little smoochy smooch. Then they went to her high school, which I had a thought about them going to her high school. You know, when you're like driving through your hometown with someone
Mhm.
that's not from there, like maybe it's like a close friend or like a partner or whatever. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is where I went to high school. This is the bus stop that I used to wait at every morning at 6 a.m. They don't care. I'm going to tell you that right now. They don't care. They're like, oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
that? Do you have that experience?
Well, I haven't been to my hometown in 11, 12 years. It's been a long time. And
Yeah.
so Joe, my boyfriend's name is not Joe. His name is Jordan.
It's close. It's close.
Yeah, Jo. He and I have talked briefly about like when we like someday when we get to Florida and come visit you and all the things,
Hmm.
like maybe we'll take a drive through Boca or whatever, and like I'll show him where I went to school, and like really what I want to do though is take him to my favorite places to eat that I miss in Florida,
Yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
short list. But like that's my vibe. Is like this is I went to Moe's Southwest Grill like weekly or daily practically at one point in my life. But and you've
Yeah.
been there with me too, most
Plenty
likely.
of
Like
times. Plenty of
yeah.
times.
So it's like, going there, going to Tijuana Flats, like places that we don't have here on the West Coast that are so good that
Yeah.
I want him to like experience.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where my high school locker was. I don't even use my high school locker, you
No.
know?
And it just doesn't hit the same. It doesn't for your partner. They're like,
So
okay,
this is where you made
that's
out probably with other guys, or like people were slipping
right.
notes up in that like I don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
Right.
I
Right.
agree. I
Exactly.
feel like it's a thing that ABC probably makes them do because it feels like all
Yeah.
sentimental and it's just kind of
Yeah, totally.
awkward.
Yeah, it was interesting. So then they head to the gym and they like play a little 1-on-1, which
Of
was very
course.
cute. And I'll back up to something that she spoke about at the gym in a little bit because it sort of set up their
Dinner thing.
their dinner date.
Yeah.
And then they have their dinner date later on and they're like recapping the day and Joe gets emotional and he shares some really intimate details about himself and his past, specifically his like personal journey. It was nice to see him get vulnerable.
I actually have a note in here saying I like how normal Joe seems.
Yeah.
Um he there's something about watching someone on reality TV and not be so smooth, right? Like it just makes him
Mm,
seem so human. And so he's like stumbling over words, like you can tell he has awkward body language and I'm like, okay, I actually to me this might sound really weird, but that's kind of a green flag in a way because the ones who are so like I got this and like, yeah, baby, you have beautiful eyes and like I'm excited to see where this relation that like kind of freaks me out. It's like, ooh, you're a little too comfortable with the camera in your face and like, I don't know. I don't this is
yeah.
my opinion, being really honest here. But it
I
killed
share
me
that.
to understand and to hear how he had to put down basketball because of an injury. And I actually can relate to that. The reason I stopped dancing is because of a permanent tiny broken bone in my foot.
Mm,
So I get that. And the other thing I had in here is it really does become a part of your identity and learning how to separate you as your own person away from a hobby that was a career, was a life, was a part of
right.
your lifestyle for so long is a
Yeah.
severing that is painful.
Yeah, I think that the identity experience and the transitions that athletes go through actually doesn't get a whole lot of air that it
100%.
deserves because I hear athletes talk about this all the time. I hear performing artists talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when you train really hard in whatever the like craft is or the sport is, when
Yeah.
you train really hard at a really young age, you are more or less treated like an adult and are utilized for the performance outcome that you or your team or your studio or whatever you make up produces. So if you're an athlete on a high school team, depending on the state, you could make that town a whole lot of money and never see a dime. You
True.
could go to college and do the same thing and never see a dime, though they're starting to change some of those rules as they should. And you are treated like the employee that you are. And then when that season of your life is over, you are expected to just take it on the chin to be like, I'm 19, go enjoy the world. But you don't even know who you are because all you've been seen as is an athlete. You've only been able to make time for your sport or your craft. So you just get like ricocheted into the world, and a lot of people have like struggled with drugs. A lot of people have struggled with addiction, with being like, with thinking about wanting to end their lives. Like it happens more than we talk about. And he brought it up and he got really emotional. But Michelle set that up earlier in the day where she was like, hey, I know the benefit, I've experienced the benefits of getting vulnerable in this space. So just letting you know that. And then he sort of took that cue later on that evening.
Yeah. I love the depth that he was able to share with her about all of that, because one, obviously he knows she can relate to the basketball being like a part of their identity, a part of their life, a huge part of their life. And then, you know, opening it up to his struggle with, I mean, I don't think he called it this in the episode last night, but severe depression around who am I? What am I going to do with my life now? What direction, you know, it's really, really diminishing on your soul, your spirit, your ability to show up on this planet. And sharing that with someone can be really scary. And you could tell he was a little nervous about bearing all.
Doing that. Yeah.
But she kept quiet. She allowed him to take his time. She held space. She did it.
Yeah.
She did a great job.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Look at the amount of emotional intimacy that developed in their relationship because of it. It was beautiful to watch. It was beautiful.
Yeah. He took a risk, but she sort of set the stage to make that a safe opportunity for him to take. And he had said some quote about like experiencing the other side of fear. I didn't totally quote what he had said, but he was sort of speaking to that experience, which is like sometimes when you do something that you're so afraid of, you get the gift of knowing what's on the other side of it.
I completely agree with that quote. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to, in the sense that we all experience fear, all of us, in different ways for different reasons. But being able to take action in either prioritizing your mental health, communicating, setting a boundary, having an uncomfortable conversation, that doesn't mean that when you take those steps, the fear just disappears. Courage truly is experiencing fear and still doing what needs to be done in order to get you to the end result that you need to get to. And so having him being able to articulate that, and then on the other side be like, yet I'm so proud of like where it's brought me to today, it was really cool to see. And it was really amazing to have and I'm not saying all men, like this is rare. I think that a lot of women assume that it's rare for men to open up like that. And so I think it was really encouraging for any woman watching this show to see like, oh yeah, men can be vulnerable. Men can speak their heart and like articulate their struggles if given the opportunity, again, in a safe space to do so.
He definitely modeled what it looks like to open up, say a lot about his experience, be quite candid about it, and struggle in that moment. So sort of what you mentioned when we opened this date up, you were like, it was great to see him not be on his P's and Q's and to see him struggle. You know, he didn't do that perfectly. Right. He didn't do it perfectly, and the two of them still benefited together. And like you said, like you can see the emotional growth within their relationship now. I had a couple thoughts before this episode about like, does Joe really want to be here? How does he really feel about this? I could tell that she really likes him because he's hot. It's just, I've said it for like the 5th week in a row. He is hot, so I understand, but I didn't know where he was at, and now it's clear that the two of them are really into each other.
Yeah, I feel for me like the note that the note I wrote down was, to me this is a clear front runner assuming no crazy shit ends up happening is what I
Right.
put.
Right.
I feel like
We will see.
I have like PTSD after the Jamie thing because Jamie also had what seemed like a great one-on-one and then like, ooh, I don't see that happening with
Yeah.
Joe. I feel like if that was going to happen with Joe, we'd already start to see kind of like a rabbit trail, I guess is the term for it, of like,
Yes.
oh, that's where this is going with this dude.
Right.
Um,
A producer planted
yeah,
something.
yes. And so, yeah, I feel like at the end of the date, Michelle very much said, best date she's ever been on. Um, and I can believe that, especially in this
Hmm.
setting. It was like such a
Hmm.
down to earth, normal conversation. There was no
Hmm.
crazy bells and whistles, no helicopters, no weird tantra instructor situation.
Just her alma mater high school and her
Yeah.
locker.
Yeah, I'm sure the tantra weird dates are going to come though soon. Like they always have
Yeah.
those weird cuddle each other and, we haven't, yeah, no. Yep.
Stare into each other's eyes for 10 minutes.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I can't. And then we had our first red flag of the evening during this segment too. While they're on their one-on-one, there's a quick pull away to the guys in the house waiting for the next date card. The group date card comes and it's revealed that Nate now gets the one-on-one later in the week.
Hmm.
And Chris S.
Hmm.
says, I'm really disappointed. I went out on a limb for her, told her the honest truth, which is what she wanted to hear, and asked of everyone else in the house. Everything I said fell on deaf ears. I got the short end of the stick. What do you hear when you hear that quote, Bri?
Entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, my gut reaction was,
Ooh,
who the F are you?
yeah.
Seriously, like, why is it that you feel entitled to any opportunity when I mean, again, all that we've been able to see, the only connection that you've been able to form with this woman is you ratting out dudes in the house, pulling in a quote totally out of context and
Mm-hmm.
believing that I did something for her. It was very like, it felt like
Meh.
I'm supposed to be yeah, it was very whiny.
Yeah, that's what I was like, you sound like a child. Like, he comes back and
Oh.
comes back and comes back again.
Yeah,
Mm.
he sure does. Okay, so then
So,
we have our group date, which his behavior is also sort of spotlighted
oh my
in this
God,
group date as well.
yes. I can't.
I love
Let's
that they
just
put him
talk
in a
about, can I set the group date up actually? Because I have lots of,
yeah, let her rip.
I was fucking dying. Like, so she takes the guys to an NFL, the Vikings, a
The
professional NFL
Vikings stadium.
stadium. It's the Minnesota Vikings. All the guys are stoked. Like they're running onto a field. Like you don't just get to do that ever. It's kind of a big deal. They're all like very masculine dudes, so they all are probably huge football fans. So this is like the experience of a lifetime. Like the amount
Hmm.
of excitement. So they run out on the field and they get punked. I literally said, "Where's Ashton Kutcher?" I was like, "They are on an episode of Punked because
Sure.
here's what happens. No Minnesota Vikings come running out of that locker room area,
Nope.
that little tunnel. Nope. We have grown ass men literally pulling a ricochet type Viking ship situation onto the field,
Yep.
screaming in like full on Viking garb. What?"
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was a really silly moment, the Viking cosplay.
I can't.
I
And
bet
like
that there's
all the
some real
guys,
like, oh yeah, they were like,
oh,
what the
it's
hell is
just
going on?
all the
But also I
excitement.
imagine that
Woo.
there are Viking stands, like people are maybe super into this culture, probably are not also the same audience that are watching The Bachelor on ABC. But
Really? You don't
they
think so?
no, I know. Something I just have that funny feeling. It's like a scratch in my throat that says that's probably not
Mm,
they don't cross
yeah.
over.
No Viking like
Um,
LARPers come to.
yeah. What I'm trying to say is that they disrespected the Viking community.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get at. So then they create this like Viking challenge for the men, which like you sort of mentioned, true to the group of men that we have who are like pretty hyper masculine. This is a very hyper masculine challenge, which they all were very into, and I was just like, ugh. Yeah,
Gross.
I'm
Yeah.
sort of all set with this.
Um, yeah, I can't. And then she was like, I also really would love to be a fly on the wall because I feel like they feed her lines. They have to feed her lines. And like probably the guys too because she said, "I require bravery and heart in a man." It's like it felt really, yeah, like channel your inner brave heart. Who is that? Mel Gibson or something? Like,
Yep. Yeah.
so it was awkward. And then like they make them all scream a war cry, and Rick somehow got scarier. I was
Yo.
terrified, and then I laughed. I laughed so hard that I cried. Brie, I kid you not. I'm like, Rick somehow got scarier. Pretty sure he popped some neck and forehead muscles. The salad bar wasn't enough to take it to that next level. So it was
He
like his eyes
he
popped out of his head. Like I don't know what happened.
he did get so much scarier. I was floored. He's terrifying.
Yeah, and then Martin did a backflip before his scream. They end up giving all of the men Viking themed costumes, and guess who
Hmm.
really gets the short end of the stick? Chris S.
Yeah.
This is where we need to understand that your words create your reality. He was bitching and moaning
Yeah.
earlier in the week. Wah, wah, wah. So guess what? He literally got a blow up horse costume.
Yeah. Yeah. He was
Um,
he was made to be a centaur, and the producers did that because he's a little bitch.
Yeah, and I think it's really funny because and just so that you know, all of these costumes look like they got for sale on like from Party City or something.
Yeah. Like the day after
But
Halloween.
yeah, when later or no, this was before they put on the costumes, but Chris S when he was throwing his log, he's like, "I'm still upset about the whole Nate thing and today I'm going to stand out from the other guys because I'm Chris and they're the other guys." And it was just so like, "Oh my God, kindergarten." Like, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they
He
make them
he
eat
pissed me
fermented
off. He pissed me
fish.
off. Yeah, they ate a bunch of pickled herring, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fermented herring, and then they had cow brains tongue in cheek. And my question for you, Brie, is like, would you do it? Would you do it?
Yeah, I'll
Like
eat
honestly.
anything. I'll eat anything.
You would?
Yeah.
You would have done it? I
Yeah.
am not.
Yeah.
I would have been throwing up. You know that about me though.
Yeah.
I don't venture in exciting foods. I like to know
What
I
you're getting. I probably would have just to like know what's on the other side.
vomit.
Yeah,
Vomit's on
vomit's
the
on
other
the other
side.
side. I know. I don't run
Um,
away. I used to run away from food. I don't run away from food anymore. But listen, know your
I admire
boundaries, know
that.
your limits.
I will not be doing fermented fish. But then Chris versus Olu in this date. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah.
this?
What was the specific was oh, it was first of all, they had like a little bit of beef
Oh
starting
yeah, because
from the
Olu was
episode before.
pissed. Yeah,
Yeah,
about what
he's like, I don't
happened.
trust this dude. So the producers obviously put the two of them together for the arm wrestling feature of this, which like you're not going to win an arm wrestling contest against a dude nicknamed Swolu. It's not going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
Good luck. And did they have them do any other? I don't know. There was just back and forth
yeah. And
banter
Chris was
between the two
like,
of them.
"I forfeit."
Yeah. We'll zip through the fact that Clayton wins the Viking challenge because he
Yeah,
looks like an IRL Viking. And they go to the dinner, the after
cocktail
party
party. Yeah,
section. And what was really interesting to me about this part of the date was so there was a little bit of a touch on last week's group date where Michelle felt like no one really made an effort for her, and she
right.
expressed how that impacted her. So a good number of them seemed to be very eager to give her
Attentive.
additional attention. Yeah, she noticed that. She liked that. They were working on that. They named it. Great. All
Yes.
is good. She clearly has a better time this week. Then they go into the group date function, and the producers specifically show us on camera all of the dudes interrupting the date before them to have one-on-one time with Michelle in this after party
Hmm.
moment.
Hmm.
So what you're seeing is the men are sort of,
Pursuing.
they're pursuing, they are the ones taking control over the time that they get with Michelle. Michelle's doing absolutely nothing. She's just sitting back and enjoying it.
Yeah.
So we hear a little bit of Chris S's monologue of like, she hasn't made any time for me. She hasn't gone out of her way to like check in with me. Like, I wanted to know what you thought about that in this like juxtaposition against how the other men were making time.
I have so many notes here and quotes from Chris S. So I'm going to try and keep it short. But the first one I have is such a whiner. And I quote, "Today hasn't been fun for me. There's some things on my mind that I want to speak with her about. I want to talk with her about it tonight." It was just so like, today hasn't been fun for me. And like, I need to talk to her, blah, blah, blah. And of course, as you touched on, all the guys are like being really intentional about their time. They are doing their thing. They are not letting a moment pass them up. And what does Chris S do? He sits
Sits around and
there
waits.
and waits for Michelle to pursue him. Like I literally have a quote from him. He says, "I'd love to speak with her, but I'm not sure why she hasn't talked to me yet. I put myself out there more than I usually would," is also a quote he said.
Oh,
So
whoa. That is
contempt,
problematic for me.
me too, contemptuous, implying that he shouldn't or wouldn't be bothered to do that normally, but she's lucky for his attention and presence. Playing the victim. If you want to talk to her, go freaking talk to her. Don't expect her to come to you. It's called The Bachelorette, is what I put.
Yeah.
With 3 red
Yeah.
flag emojis right there. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
End scene. Absolutely. You captured that. You really did, because he needed to go out of his way. And if I didn't catch that quote that you mentioned about him being like, you were like, that's an issue.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I put more effort in than I usually do. I feel really bad for all of the people that have dated you before this moment.
Because this is not much
You clearly,
effort.
and you know what? I don't want to overassume. So let me just say, separate from that, I have gone on dates with dudes that have done the absolute bare minimum. And I don't mean like cheeky bare minimum where you like haven't held every door open for me. I mean like you are literally waiting for me to reach out to you, for me to make plans, which of course is just a very clear sign that you don't actually like me. I get that. But it's like, if you don't do anything here, you can only expect the outcome is zilch. You're not going to get anywhere. You're definitely not going to get someone to fall in love with you.
And you're not, especially by complaining and playing the victim. This is why Bri and I are telling you to pay attention to people's consistent behaviors and words. Because, like, I agree with you, Bri. We've seen this much of what has actually happened, because they don't show everything. They edit stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
So for all we know, Chris S. at some point has had some magical conversation with her.
Right.
I don't fully believe that, though, because the reality is that if it was that juicy, we would have freaking seen it. And so I feel like Chris just has it in his mind that, whether he is truly that guy who thinks he's just hot shit and like everyone should fawn over him when he enters the room, like if that truly is a belief, or if it's like he's so in his head about the environment he's in that he just is like self-sabotaging left, right, and center and can't make sense of anything. I don't know. We won't know because we don't know him as a person. But this is, again, anyone who's listening to this, why this is such an important skill set to have, and being able to pay attention and actively listen to what people are saying, because it really does show insight on who they truly are as in their moral character. And it takes time, because Chris S., we didn't think he was a villain until last week, So it's like, do your due diligence in paying attention and not getting swept up in just, oh, yeah, I have a date and this guy's giving me attention, so I'm going to just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, roll with it because he's here and he's breathing and he has a pulse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have
So
more respect for yourself. And I would say same goes for people dating women as well. Like
yeah.
if this person's not giving you whoever they are, if they're not giving you whatever level of energy you are expecting, don't waste your time. What? Just for the opportunity to feel validated that someone's attracted to you? We don't even know if they're attracted to you.
Yeah. And at that point, doing, as we were saying, the bare minimum, that turns into breadcrumbing. They're just stringing you along for the
Yeah.
attention. So it's
Right.
like, don't wise up, you know? And yes, I think what you like, just to take a moment to talk to our listeners pretty directly, like this show is a heterosexual show, but all of the information that we are talking about applies to any kind of relationship. So not just romantic. We very much
Mm,
talk within romantic relationships because of what I do, what you do, and also what this show
yeah.
is. But this stuff applies to all kinds of relationships and all and any kind,
Genders.
no matter
Yeah.
how you, yeah, all genders, no matter what your orientation is, it is applicable. And so I just wanted to say that because I think that's really important
Yeah.
for us to make sure that everyone feels included, even though we use he, she all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are in the business of hoping to have some impact on people treating people better as they
Mm-hmm.
navigate their dating preferences, no matter
100%.
what it is that they're looking for. Be honest about it. So, okay. And have some dang self respect.
Yes. Love yourself.
So, okay, so we see Chris S be a little bitch for the second time in this episode. And then I guess we close the group date. Who got the rose? Who got the rose on that one?
Clayton.
Clayton
Clayton
got the
got the rose.
rose.
I
Right,
also
which
want to
was
take a
uneventful to
moment.
me. Mm.
Yeah, I will say this. I agree that Clayton isn't like a shining star or anything. He seems like a decent human being though. And one of my favorite parts that I thought was adorable was when Clayton was talking to Michelle and Brendan comes in to swoop in and they are so like chill about it. Like Clayton looks up, sees Brendan, he chuckles. Brendan comes up like confident yet respectful, you know, and is like, "Hey man, like can I steal her away?" And he was like, "Yeah, bro, like do your thing." And
Yeah.
I felt that seeing that connection between them was a huge green flag because it goes to show that there's been rapport built between them in the house
Mm.
over the time that they've been living together. And I
Hmm.
really think like I am speaking from my own personal experience because in the past when I have dated my most unhealthiest relationships have been with men who are incapable of having other solid male friendships. And so,
Mm.
in contrast, men who have great male friendships, and I'm not just talking about like I go to the gym and he spots me and I spot him. I'm talking like you talk about your feelings and what's going on in your life and your goals and all of those things. Like that to me is a green flag. And so I just
Yeah.
wanted to say, I loved seeing that interaction between the two of them because although it was short and although not many words were spoken, there was so much respect and just like comfortability between the two of them that I'm like, that shows to me you two are like good dudes.
If you are dating someone and you have the opportunity to see how they treat other people
Yes.
organically, what an amazing opportunity to get a real glimpse into their character so
Yeah.
that you can really decide if, first of all, that could be a huge turn on for you. That is for me at least, like being able to see people be good to other people for no reason other than that's just who they are.
I
Soiled
love it.
pants.
Yeah. My soiled pants.
I didn't want to say panties. I didn't want to
No,
say
you
it.
but you did now. Panties is such an interesting word. It feels so dirty, but it's not. It's
No, it's just like underwear is like too like sterile.
personal.
No,
Yeah, underwear is yeah, the word. Yeah, I get it.
the word underwear is sterile. I need something else. Grundy's feels disgusting.
Listeners, chime in with what you think we should call
Oh
it
my God.
them.
This content is going to live on as absolute recorded evidence of our
Intimates.
breakdowns. Oh,
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
okay.
Nate's
Nate.
one-on-one.
Okay, Nate. God, I have such a effing crush on Nate. It's really tough. It's really hard for me over here.
I'm intrigued by
Um,
this because I get weird vibes from him. Like but
yeah,
this I no judgment. I am along for this ride with you. I'm just intrigued.
I listen. I wish I understood it better. I just don't. It's just something about his face, and I like that okay. So sort of opposite to what you were saying about Joe, where you're like, it's nice to see that he's like a little awkward, a little like
Right, right, right.
doesn't have it all together. And Nate's ability to sort of move through most spaces, regardless of what they are, with
Right.
like just finesse is, I think, something that I'm just like a little bit drawn to. So it could be
Yeah.
that. What are your weird feelings? I'd love to hear more about that.
It's just a
Mm,
vibe. And
hmm
I think also I am because I don't know if you remember, but in the first episode when we met him, I was like, his words are like sand. Like he was saying a
Yeah.
lot that had no substance. And so I think that's kind of what I'm waiting for is like, where is the
mm
substance of Nate? Like, where is the
mm
depth? Where is the vulnerability? And that's kind of where I'm at with him is like I'm not saying like I think he's an awful human being. Like I am not the
hmm
ruling is not out yet on any of that.
hmm
It's just
hmm
more like I just don't trust him.
Yeah.
I don't trust
Yeah.
him.
No, I get that. I get that. I think that there's more to come with Nate. Like we're gonna see more. Unless she picks him, and then maybe we won't see anything at all. But okay, so their date, this was a really interesting one-on-one date because they're in Michelle's hometown. She had an opportunity to bring
The
two of
two
her best
besties.
friends. Yep, on the water. They were on a boat. They were doing lake things. They were doing lake things,
Lake
and
things.
they I know nothing about Minnesota, so that's about all I know is what they're giving us, which is this lake. And the two, I was really impressed with the way that they grilled him. They were like they asked him to address the issue that came from Chris S's going out on a limb, as he says. And what's funny is that you and I, when we were talking last week, that's what we were hoping to hear him say. We were
Yeah.
hoping to hear him like just clarify what that statement was about for him in context. And he gave us that here. And it
Yeah.
was exactly what we expected. He was confident in their relationship, and therefore that's what
The
came out of
assumption
his
he made.
mouth.
And this is why communication is so fascinating to me is because like we all have different lenses in which we see and hear all kinds of words and behaviors and all of that. And so Chris S, because of his insecurity with his relationship with Michelle, very much heard what Nate said and interpreted it blah, 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 interpreted. Yes,
Interpreted. Hmm
interpreted. Did I get it?
Interpreted. Yeah, you did it.
Chris did that. He heard those words and thought, oh, so Nate is cocky. Like he just thinks he has this all in the bag and like, probably projecting. Like let's be real. Chris probably
Hmm
projected that desire, that wanting that confidence in that relationship. He pushed that onto Nate hearing those words. And what I'm trying to say here, because I don't feel like I'm explaining this well, is that
Mm,
Chris S being the person he is, when he would say something like that, that is what he would mean by it.
hmm
Whereas Nate, being his own human being, it's coming from a completely different place.
hmm
And so this is why communication, because look at what happened. Chris like blew up this whole thing that really didn't need to be a thing at all and ended
Right.
up pulling I've never seen this done before, ever. I've never seen someone crash someone else's one-on-one date. Chris S shows up unannounced, uninvited.
hmm Yeah.
I was screaming at the TV. Like, what was your reaction to that?
Um, I couldn't tell if this was actually what he wanted to do or if the producers like nudged him along. It was hard for me to tell because I don't think that it would surprise me if the producers
Yeah, me
had
neither.
some
That's a good
input
point.
there. I did find it to be wildly inappropriate.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, listen, the date with Nate was going as the date with Nate was to be expected to go. They were
Great.
going to continue to connect. Their chemistry is good. They were going to continue to vibe. Like maybe it would have been boring. I don't know. But Chris, who didn't take an opportunity to talk to her about the things that were so heavily on his mind when he was actually in front of her face and had time with her, he went and interrupted this one-on-one, which was so awkward. And it was like all in Nate's face. Like I was shocked
Yeah.
that he didn't say more.
It was hilarious. His reaction
Mm-hmm.
was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I want to acknowledge you in saying like I'm not sure if this was fully Chris's idea or if this was the producers. This is crazy. Let's back up to the group date really quick. He says, Chris S, I didn't get the opportunity when we all know in real life he didn't even create the opportunity. And then he follows up and I quote, so maybe I'll talk to her tomorrow. And what I put in my thing is when he said that, I said, the second he said that, I realized this must be calculated to get time alone with her or to create a dramatic scene. And look what
Yeah.
happens at the one-on-one. And so,
Dramatic scene.
and so I, again, I think the verdict is still out on like, was this fully inspired by Chris or did the producers kind of slowly plant that seed of the idea in there on the group date,
Mm-hmm.
maybe? Because we did see him pull a PA aside or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I was just floored. So Chris S pulls Michelle. I thought Michelle was she handled it like a champ because before she got up to leave the table to walk off with Chris S, she looked at Nate and made eye contact and was holding his hand, I believe, and was just like, I'll be right back. And so in that moment, to me, I felt that was her saying, you're not going anywhere. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just need to go take care of this. And I felt like
Right.
that was such a beautiful thing for her to offer to Nate in that moment because she easily could have been like, saw Chris walk in and been like, oh, okay, let me go talk to Chris. And that would have been, if you put yourself in Nate's shoes, that's so terrifying because you know Chris is there to talk shit about Nate,
Right.
you know? So I thought that was really
Right.
kind and considerate of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it establishes a little bit of security
Yeah.
within their dynamic that did get sort of it got derailed, and you can imagine that the person who would be in the position of Nate in that moment would feel very maybe concerned, a little worried about like what are they about to talk about? What's going to happen? Is she
Right.
going to come back? There have been a number of times in Michelle's season so far that some dramatic stunts have been pulled and then it's like wiped her out and she's like, I'm cutting this short. I'm sure that he was worried that she would come back and she'd be like, I just want to go home. I just want to be done here. This was great. Like I'm certain that those were thoughts, but she talks to him. He says what he needs to say, I guess. She's like, I don't know why you think that you have the right to like speak for me in a situation. You gave me some information. I took it. I made my own decision. Bye-bye now.
Yeah. And
And then she sent him home.
Yeah, his
She
game
needed
didn't
to.
work with her. That's what I wrote. Yeah, his game didn't work with her. She specifically called him out on his attempt to control the decision that she was making. And that's
Right.
exactly what it was. And I loved that she allowed Chris to speak. And then when he was done, she spoke her part and then did what she needed to do. And you could tell it caught him by surprise. He was like, oh, okay. And I mean,
Yeah.
is anyone surprised? No. So Nate got a rose. He's safe. And that was that. Any other thoughts on
Yep.
this one-on-one?
Yeah, there was a moment that I really liked that shared, Nate and Michelle, where they were just asking each other what they were looking for in a partner and a relationship. And I thought that speaks to behavior that I would really love to see more of in like earlier stages of dating. I think that it felt really genuine. They were both really specific. I was actually a little surprised at how specific Nate got about the type of person that he's looking for. And that's sort of my green flag.
I feel that so often people don't have that conversation until they're already emotionally invested. And at which point that conversation has a lot of strings attached to it. So it's like, why do that to yourself and put yourself through all of those crazy emotions and then having to grieve something before it really even got off the ground, when it's like, if you can have these conversations earlier on within the first 3 dates, what are you looking for? Are you casually dating? Are you just looking for a fling? Totally valid. Let me know, because I'm actually more marriage focused or long-term relationship focused,
Right.
And that doesn't mean that that person's an awful human being for being on a dating app or going out with you. It's just you need to be on the same page, and then taking it a step further and being like, hey, this is what my deal breakers are, You don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
And you don't want to put
exactly.
yourself through an emotional roller coaster if you don't need to. So
Yep.
be upfront about it all. Because those conversations get so much harder the more emotionally invested you get.
Right.
And then
Our rose
we go into
ceremony.
the cocktail party and rose ceremony. Dun, dun, dun.
My biggest issue here was the conversation with Martin.
Yes, let's talk about that. I'm getting to my notes. I got them here.
All that I know, because again, in true Martin and Michelle dynamic fashion, I have no idea what any point anyone's trying to make in this moment. He was trying to talk about like
female high maintenance versus male high maintenance.
He was feeling really refreshed to be spending time with Michelle, a woman to him who is not high maintenance. And she was challenging him on like, what does high maintenance mean to you? And he's like, a woman who expects a man to do everything for her. And she's like, oh, but men aren't high maintenance. And he was like, I don't know men who are high maintenance. And she was like,
no, he said, I don't think men go into a relationship expecting to be taken care of, which yes. I was like, let me introduce you to half of my clients.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Thank you for specifying what he actually said there, because the impact is so different. So different. And the reaction that you just had was all over Michelle's face in the same way. But she started laughing and he was like, I don't get what's funny. And how often do we know men and people going into relationships expecting to be taken care of?
Yeah.
Mommy issues, hello. I am calling you now.
Yeah. And then Martin finally trying to kind of backpedal. He said, I don't think a man should. I don't think a woman should. And that's why I came in this show, because I know you're different. Because at that point, he knew he had kind of offended, hit a nerve. And so he was like, I knew you were different. So to me, that kind of was a little bit of a red flag on Martin's end, just because it's like, I felt, I don't know if he truly believes that, but I just thought that was a weird conversation to have, because it's like, if she's not like that, then just say, I really appreciate how non-high maintenance you are. Why do you need to get into this whole conversation about, it came across a little misogynistic, and I think that it's horseshit. It does not matter what you have between your legs or how you identify. Any person on this planet is capable of seeking out relationships to fill voids or incompetencies in their own life.
Absolutely. Point blank, period. Martin in particular, while he's making it clear that that's not why he's entering relationships, which I believe him on that. Right. My issue with Martin is that he so desperately wants to make his point heard, that he's missing the moments where there is a miscommunication happening. He's right about that. But now we've seen televised 2 conversations of theirs where he did not take the opportunity as we very wisely coached last week,
Martin, you need to
that
listen to this.
to listen to the script, he's not taking the opportunity to be like, whoa, 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 what just happened here? You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
just full throttle, trying to see the end to his point and getting mad when she doesn't like get it. I was honestly shocked that he got a rose.
Me too. I thought he was going home and he got called out for his rose in the middle of the pack and I was floored. I will say this, earlier on in the episode he was talking to Chris S, I believe, when Chris was like, I need to talk to her about da 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 da. And I can't find it in here, but I know I wrote it. Oh, right here. Martin gives decent advice. I wish he'd take it his own advice and apply it to himself. I wrote that because both with Jamie and with Chris, trying to talk them down and be mindful of their perspectives and feelings. And I put, dude, on your one-on-one last week, you got lost in the sauce. And then now this evening on this cocktail party, he's doing it again. He's putting his foot in his mouth and not practicing what he preaches. This strikes me as a man who's read a lot of self-help personal development books, but hasn't actually implemented anything that he's read. So he can give all the advice in the world and tell other people, but he is not genuinely living the way that he speaks.
Which people do that, right? Like people do
all
that.
the
People are, how often do we feel that we are like great at giving support, great at giving advice, can see things so objectively, so clearly. And then when it comes to our own lives, we absolutely flub it up just over and over and over again. The driving home thing with Martin in this season for me is that they are not a match. They don't match. Every time that they spend time together, I see both of them working very hard to connect. And I just, at this point, at this stage of the game, cut him and his bad bleach dye job loose. Cut him loose.
Yeah, with that weird ass haircut. And then SOOO, I'm just gonna call him SOOO. His real name.
Yeah, his name is SOOO, but we call him SOOO.
We're jumping on the nickname bandwagon here.
Yeah.
He called Martin Two-Face, saying that he doesn't trust him, which I am on Team SOOO with that. I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm there. And yeah, I don't know how, I literally wrote, I don't know how she kept Martin. That must have been a producer move because Chris S goes home and now they got to have a new person to stir the pot at least for another week. So,
yeah, probably.
It's kind of ridiculous. I will say the ending did you watch the ending credits with Olu bringing her African food? I thought that was so
brought
good.
Like a traditional Nigerian dish, and he was taking so much pleasure in the fact that she was like not prepared for the level of heat that was in that dish.
Nice.
And it was like jollof rice. It was incredible. It was really funny.
I would have tried that. That shit looked dope. And I think clearly I bond a lot through food. That's the repetitive.
Yeah, it's like the fourth time we've mentioned. You were like, I'll take Jordan to my hometown, but he's not going to my high school. He's going to all of my favorite places to eat.
Yeah, like I'm that girl. Like I love to eat. Eating is good. Eating is fun. And so Olu, if I was Michelle, would have gained so many brownie points there for me.
Lots of points.
I love that. I think that's so cool. So,
did you have anything else on the rose ceremony?
No, you?
No. But maybe then this is a good time to do our green flag and our red flag of the week.
Yes. Echo. My red flag of the week was fucking Chris S and all the things. Chris S,
every single behavior.
I literally wrote all of it. So everything that I pointed out this evening about this gentleman, red, like my emojis.
Red flag. Yeah, I agree with you on that. He took zero responsibility for any of his experiences that he had totally decided did not work out the way that he wanted to. And I think that when you move about the world, especially in dating, and you have no ability or willingness to take some responsibility and own your side of the street in any sort of conflict, you're going to lose every time.
100%. What was your green flag?
My green flag was I really give Joe a lot of credit for taking a risk and getting vulnerable. And the reason why it's a green flag, the secondary green flag in that moment is Michelle like setting up the space to do so, for it to
Totally.
be really relevant, and how different that is when Rick was just like, this is what happened with my dad, and like no shade to
Overshare,
that moment.
overshare.
Yeah, but it like wasn't appropriate, and that's sort of what we were getting at
Right.
last week. Whereas this, she was inviting him to do that, so that's her green flag in that moment. And I just cannot promote enough people doing things that they fear, if it means that they get to grow a little or learn
Right.
about themselves. Even if it doesn't work out well, you learn about yourself a little bit.
My green flag is what I said before, healthy male friendships. I think that sheds so much light on a man's ability to be emotionally vulnerable with other people. And also that if a guy has a good set of guy friends, that he has healthy relationships to turn to in times that he needs, right? Because we can't be our partners everything. And
Everything.
so, right. And so having other relationships to invest in, time wise, energy, emotionally, and then having a support system where you keep each other in check and you support each other and you can call each other when you're having a hard day, it's so necessary. Like I called you crying a couple weeks ago. Guys, we filmed an episode, and this was in the middle of when Jordan was going through his crazy. We filmed an episode, totally fine, and a couple hours later I was like, Brianna, can we call each other, because like I'm losing my mind. And
Yeah.
that was a space, and I literally told Bri, I was like, I need to talk to you about what I'm feeling, because if I go to my partner with this, it's only going to wear on him more, and it is not a
Right.
time for me to do that. And so that's
Right.
what I mean, is men need that too. And so if
Yeah.
you're dating someone or meeting someone who has solid male friendships and they can talk about that,
It's a good sign.
gold.
We have a Reddit queue. All right. I'm going to set this up. So this person, she identifies as female, but we don't know how old she is. What's her handle? Awake no mad. User awake nomad. She,
Or is it awake nomad?
oh,
Oh, I got something in my teeth. Oh.
get it out, girl. Use this video as a mirror. Get it. Get it. Okay, so our Reddit user, Awake Nomad, she wrote in the Reddit thread, dating over 30. So we have to imagine that she's at least 30 or older. So she's talking about using dating apps, and she's relating to this common saying, which is they're just not into you. And she said she's sort of flipped that saying on its side and taken it to give herself her own power by saying, I'm just not into that. And she's curious if all of the new standards that she's setting for herself while she's sort of filtering through dating app options is making her too choosy, and she's worried that it's going to like close her off to absolutely everyone. So she has this bit where she goes, taking over 24 hours to reply, I'm just not into that. People whose words don't match their actions, not into it. Breadcrumbing, no thanks. Emotionally unavailable, never heard of her. People that I have to post scenarios about and advice subs, wow, I'm really screwing this up. Yikes. Not not showing equal effort, why bother? Afraid of commitment, been there, healed from that. Bad communication, who has the time? Ghosting, bye. Getting sexual before we meet, red flag. And so again, her thought is, I'd rather be single forever than deal with wishy-washy crap that seems to be modern dating, but I want to stay away from becoming avoidant. She wants specifically our thoughts.
Yeah.
No, she asked the entire
100%.
internet.
I freaking love that she has she's empowered herself to do this. This is huge. Like, think for yourself. She is not allowing her brain anymore to be confused by all of the mixed messaging or the rules that are out there. She's making her own rules. So go girl, go. So proud of you.
Yeah.
I also love some of the things that she pointed out, like breadcrumbing. No thanks. Thank you. Just to define the term, if people don't know what breadcrumbing
Yeah,
is,
please.
think of
Please.
think of the good old age wives' tale of Hansel and Gretel, these two kids who followed a trail of, or like, breadcrumbs, and they end up at this witch's house and da da da. But my point is, breadcrumbing very much is doing just leaving a crumb of attention, enough for you to continue the trail, right? Continue the interaction, but it's
Yeah.
non-committal. So it's not
Right.
saying I want to be with you. It's saying like, well, maybe someday we'll meet. It's like it's just enough
Yeah.
to keep you
Yeah.
engaged and like interested, but nothing that
Right.
actually goes anywhere. So that's what breadcrumbing is. And
Right.
she's like, no thanks.
Mhm.
So hallelujah, go girl, go. The other one that I'm really proud of, getting sexual before we meet, red flag. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially if that's not what you're looking for. If that's like, if for
right.
you, like having sex too early tends to confuse your feelings and makes it complicated to date and suss out other red flags, that's sounds like that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, and also, yeah, and I think that we need to feel safe with someone before we go there. And I think, like we've mentioned in episodes past, a lot of people use sexual communication and sexual intimacy as a way to expedite that feeling of relationship and intimacy and chemistry and all of that. So in this entire list, my only thing that I would say she should maybe take a look at is the taking 24 hours to reply. Um, because especially if you're still on a dating app, people have lives, people have work, they have
Hmm.
other priorities, especially with the holidays coming up. People are traveling, and also a lot of people turn their notifications off because they want to
Yeah.
focus on work and not be addicted to constantly swiping. And so
Right.
making the assumption that they haven't replied to you in 24 hours means that they're scum of the earth, not a good human being, or don't care about you, I think is a little
Hmm.
drastic. Now, outside of
Hmm.
that, if you're like texting, if you're consistently dating someone, that's a different conversation.
Right.
But when it comes to dating apps, that's the only rule of hers that I'm kind of like, alrighty, girl, like I might want to check in with you on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I do think that that's a standard that needs to be discussed in context of dating apps, especially because, like you said, people have lives. However, if you are, I mean, speaking to the question that this girl's asking, if you are someone who is not going to tolerate waiting more than a day to hear back from someone, again, I don't think that this is appropriate to ask a perfect stranger that you haven't even like facilitated a relationship with yet, but it's someone that you're starting to date or you are dating more seriously. You need to let people know that.
Yeah.
So, my advice to this person is it is great that you have reclaimed some power in the absolute shit show that can be dating online.
Yeah.
I love that you are using it in a way that serves you. I want more of us to be doing that so that we can have a little bit more say in how this dating experience goes for us.
Hmm.
My advice is if there are certain I would call them red flags, but not
Yellow
deal
flags.
breakers. Yeah. Because red flags is a
I use
no
yellow
no zone.
flags.
Okay, great. Yellow flags, but not deal breakers. So yellow flags, not red flags. If they show up in people that you're starting to date, you might want to try letting them know what bothered you so that they have the opportunity to learn that about you and hopefully have even another opportunity to be able to do things a little bit differently. We've
Right.
said this in previous episodes, but you need to teach people how you want to be treated sometimes. It is not fair to just accept that your perfect partner is going to show up shiny and bright and hitting absolutely every mark that you are setting.
Hmm.
That's not
Yeah.
fair. Something else that she says is having an issue with not feeling like there's equal effort being made. And I think that that comes up a lot, especially in new dating relationships. We have this old belief that, the person who cares less is the person who holds all of the power. And so it creates this opportunity for all of these like game playing behaviors and
Yeah.
facilitates very little connection. So that's something that we all sort of suffer from because it's like in the back of our minds. But when you do feel like you are giving some effort and and you're not getting that same energy back, being able to check in with someone to say like, hey, I just want to like talk to you for a moment. I'm feeling like I really like where things are going and I've really enjoyed spending time together. And this is actually something I've said to someone before. When I'm typically talking to someone or when I'm dating them, my preference is to like hear from them a little bit more and for there to be like some communication about making plans. That's how I know that we're like on the right track. I just owned it and the other person wasn't into me and I had to set that tone. I had to put that out there so that I could even get them to be forced to admit this is why I'm not putting in the energy, you
Right.
know?
And
And then
okay,
I have
so
my
first,
answer.
yeah, and so first of all, I just want to say like I would be so into you, Bri, if I was a guy looking for love. Um
Thanks.
yeah, like
Me too.
but this is a great conversation to have because in that moment, although it may have stung, you were also, as you said, relieved and thankful that you knew how to move forward so that you
Yeah.
weren't caught in this like limbo stage of like, how am I spending my energy? Where is this going? And all of that stress wreaks havoc on our day-to-day life
Right.
and affects everything. It affects how we show up at work. It affects the way we sleep. Like it really, really does. And
Yeah.
so you owe it to yourself to just put yourself out there. And if, sure, it's scary, but it is so worth it on the other side because then you
Yeah.
know, and there's no guessing
Yeah.
going on anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so different, making same energy spent on finding out what the issue is and making your preference known and judging where this person's out based on their response rather than cutting everyone off at the first sign of a yellow flag or conflict and saying they're not for me. You
Yeah.
know, they take about the same amount of time, but one of them allows you to get closer to what works for you, gives you that practice of like having these neutral, productive conversations
Yeah.
and also hold other people accountable for their behavior.
Yeah. 100%. And the other thing I wanted to say that I feel like all women need to hear, I mean, anyone needs to hear this, but Bri and I have dated plenty of people, and some have been great
I'm still counting.
experiences. Yeah, some have been great experiences and, worked out for the time that they've worked out for, and others were lessons to be learned and maybe more painful
Mm-hmm.
experiences. But it does not define your value or your worth because I feel like people can look at influencers, people like you, people like me, people who are on social media and think like, wow, that girl, she just has it together. Like,
Mm,
things don't get her down and blah, blah, blah. She probably has no problem meeting people, like meeting men, meeting, whatever. And they're telling themselves this story that, but I'm different, I'm less than, I'm inferior.
right.
And so I really hope that hearing Bri's story as she's continuing to
Mm,
date empowers women to not, again, anybody, this is a habit I need to break, but empowers
mm,
anyone to know that rejection does not define you. Rejection does
yeah.
not mean that you aren't special. Rejection does not mean that you aren't worthy. Because let me tell you,
Yeah.
there is a person out there dying for a you,
Yeah.
you know?
That's so true.
And so I just wanted to say that because I think that happens a lot. People assume.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And in light of that, the expression that I made with this person that I was trying to date is years of me avoiding and trying to just pick up nonverbal cues. I was notorious for in the past sort of like trying to be forthcoming about dating, and then as soon as I started to notice that their energy shifted, I was like, I'm very observant. I can already tell that they're not interested in me anymore. I'm just gonna fade away. And you know who
Yeah.
that doesn't serve? Me. You know who
Mhm.
builds up a lot of resentment about my dating experiences? Me. So this was like many, many, many experiences where I was so tired of what I felt like was just the same bullshit over and over again, where I never once took an opportunity to be like, hey, you did this thing. I just want to check in. This is not what works for me.
And
Different.
in a healthy relationship, in the relationship that you're seeking, whoever you're dating comes
Mm-hmm.
back to you, or whoever you're in a relationship with comes back to you when hearing that and says, okay, thanks for letting me know. How can we figure this out together? Not, oh my
Exactly.
God, you're so needy. You're so clingy. There you go, being dramatic again. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
you want to call me dramatic? We're already done here then. We're already done. But
Bye,
that's
Felicia.
that's the time that I'm going to be like not into this, right? But
Yes.
it's not because we haven't tried to be, or I haven't tried to be an adult and like address it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Crushed
cool.
it.
That was fun.
Killing it. Yes. Thanks for sharing that. I think this is so many people relate to this, and I think it's important information. So, if you're listening and you enjoyed this episode, share it, review it, tag us on the gram, let your friends know. And make sure you follow us Instagram, TikTok at Ditch Script Pod. And if you want us to answer your
Yes.
question, head to ditchthescriptpod.com and submit it, and we'll do it. We will do the damn
Yeah.
thing.
Do the tippy tappies. Also, on our social media accounts, we're sharing bits from these episodes, small tidbits, small nuggets of information. If you feel like there's someone in your life that could benefit from that information but doesn't watch the show,
Mm,
send it to them. There's
share
so many
that.
ways to share it. Share that shit. If you feel like my friend is stuck and they are just not going to hear it from me and I don't know how to be ballsy, give them the info. I promise it will, if anything, start a conversation.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Love you all. See you on the next one. 1 week till Turkey Day. Next week, we'll do a little
Woohoo!
mini holiday themed segment.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
love that. Ooh, we'll talk about green, yellow, and red flags represented by Thanksgiving food.
Okay, you're going to have to unpack that one for me, but yeah. Are you ready to learn what red flags keep an eye out for when looking for love?
Then we got you covered. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the podcast where we unpack reality TV and call out the bullshit,
so that you show up confidently while dating and in relationships.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to Ditch
Ditch
the
the
Script.